I still remember the exact moment the letter came. White envelope, university seal in the corner, my name printed clean across the front. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost tore it open wrong. When I read the words, "We're pleased to inform you," I swear my vision blurred. Full scholarship, room and board. The kind of thing you daydream about but never think is actually going to happen to you. I'd worked my ass off for that moment. Late nights with textbooks, missing parties, summers spent at the library instead of messing around like my brother did. It wasn't easy, especially in my house. My parents didn't exactly think school was worth much. My dad's line was always, "Education doesn't put food on the table, hard work does." Which was ironic, because the hard work usually meant me doing shifts at the family store while my brother sat around playing Xbox. But I thought maybe, just maybe, this letter would change things. Maybe if they saw I'd gotten in, on my own merit, no money from them, they'd finally be proud of me. So I told them. I came into the kitchen, letter still warm in my hand, grinning like an idiot. "I got in," I said. "Full ride. They're covering everything." You'd think I just confessed to a crime, the way the room went silent. My mom gave me this flat look, like she didn't know what to do with that info. My dad set down his beer and leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. And then he said the line that's been burned into my brain ever since. "Don't act like you're better than us. Your brother needs that money for his truck payments." I thought I misheard. What money? It's a scholarship. They're paying for school. It's not like they hand me cash. But apparently, because the scholarship included a living stipend, my parents thought that money was family money. My brother had gotten himself locked into some ridiculous loan on a shiny new truck he didn't need. And according to them, my future was less important than his wheels. I told them no. Flat out. "It's mine. I earned it." That's when my dad snapped. He pinned me against the wall so hard, I felt the drywall crack behind me. His breath was hot and sour when he hissed, "Education doesn't put food on this table. Loyalty does." My mom didn't even flinch. My brother just stood there smirking, like he'd already won. I pushed him off, grabbed the letter, and locked myself in my room. I stayed there all night, staring at the ceiling, clutching that envelope like it was the only proof I existed. I thought that was the end of it. That maybe they'd yell a little, guilt trip me, then move on. But 2 weeks later, I found out just how far they were willing to go. Thanksgiving rolled around, and we had the usual chaos. Relatives crammed into the living room, folding chairs everywhere, kids running around screaming. I was told to make myself useful and help serve drinks. Whatever. I figured it was better than sitting at the table while my dad made snide comments about how college boys think they're too good to get their hands dirty. But then my uncle stood up, raised his glass, and said, "To my brother, our bright future. We're so proud of you for getting into university on a full scholarship." I swear I felt my soul leave my body. Everyone clapped, toasted, cheered. My brother stood there soaking it up, nodding like it was all true. And my parents? Smiling ear to ear, like they'd just pulled off the con of the century. That's when it hit me. They'd sold my story. They'd taken my acceptance letter, photocopied it, and passed it around as his. As if my blood, sweat, and tears were just props in the performance of his success. I stood there with the drink tray in my hand, face burning, wanting to scream, to throw the glasses on the floor, to shout the truth so loud the walls shook. But my dad's eyes caught mine across the table, sharp and dangerous, like a silent warning. "Don't you dare." So I didn't. I bit my tongue, swallowed the anger like poison, and went back to the kitchen. Every laugh, every cheer, every "we're so proud of you" for my brother was another knife. And all I could think was, they really erased me. But that night, when the house was quiet and everyone was asleep, I made my move. I pulled out my laptop, logged into my student portal, and downloaded the official enrollment papers. University seal, my name in bold, everything stamped and verified. I printed copies, dozens of them. And the next morning, I mailed them to every single relative who had toasted my brother the night before. No note, no explanation, just the truth in black and white. By the time my parents realized what I'd done, the phone calls had already started. Aunts, uncles, cousins, furious, confused, demanding answers. The lie they built around him was already burning down, and for once, I was the one holding the match. The phone started ringing before I even left for class that Monday. First it was my Aunt Karen, then Uncle Mike, then my mom's cousin from Ohio who I barely even knew. I could hear my mom's voice through the thin walls, sharp and frantic, while my dad barked over her like they were tag-teaming excuses. My brother stomped down the hall cursing under his breath, slamming doors like he was the victim. By the time I came out for breakfast, the kitchen was chaos. My mom was red-eyed, clutching the cordless phone like it was a lifeline. My dad glared at me over his mug, the vein in his forehead already pulsing. And my brother just sat there, silent but seething, shooting me looks like he was plotting something. "You think you're smart?" my dad said. He didn't yell. Not yet, but his voice was low and mean. "You think making us look like fools is going to help you? All you did was shame your family." I poured myself cereal like I didn't hear him. My hands were shaking so bad the milk splashed over the counter. "Answer me when I talk to you," he snapped. And that's when I said it. "It's not my job to protect your lies." The silence after that was thick enough to choke on. My mom dropped the phone onto the table. My brother leaned forward, his knuckles white. My dad stood up so fast his chair clattered to the floor. If my mom hadn't stepped between us, I think he would have hit me right then. Instead, he pointed a finger in my face and hissed, "You're no son of mine." It should have hurt more than it did, but honestly, it just confirmed what I already knew. I wasn't family to them. I was leverage. A tool. Disposable. The fallout spread fast. Some relatives called to congratulate me directly, to apologize for assuming. Others were awkward, clearly embarrassed for buying into the lie. But a good chunk? They doubled down. They said I should have kept quiet, that I made my parents look bad, that family loyalty meant letting my brother take the spotlight if he needed it. One cousin even said, "It's just school, man. You'll both be fine." It was insane to me how people could twist it. Like I was the villain for not letting my parents rewrite reality. My brother, though, he didn't take it quietly. That night he barged into my room, fists clenched. "You ruined everything," he said, spitting the words like venom. "You think this changes anything? You'll always be the weak one. Dad will never respect you." I just looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, I saw how much of his identity was built on being handed things. He didn't know how to fight for anything, because he never had to. And it scared him that I had something he couldn't fake or steal. "You know what the difference is?" I said, voice low. "I earned mine." That must have cut deep, because he lunged. We grappled, crashed into the dresser, books spilling everywhere. My mom screamed from the hall, my dad came running, and next thing I knew, I was pinned again. This time with both of them holding me down while my brother swung wild. That was the moment I realized I had to get out. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now. Because if I stayed, they were going to destroy me piece by piece, until there was nothing left. So I started planning. Quietly. I found out the scholarship included a dorm option, even for first years who lived nearby. All I had to do was accept it. I talked to the housing office, explained the family situation, and they bent the rules to get me a room assignment early. The day I packed, my mom cried like I was the one abandoning them. She clutched my arm, begged me not to tear the family apart. My dad didn't say a word, just stared at me with pure disgust, like I was trash he couldn't wait to take out. My brother laughed, called me college boy, said I'd come crawling back when the real world chewed me up. But when I walked out with my duffel bag, I felt lighter than I had in years. The first night in the dorms, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because it was the first time I'd ever felt free. No one banging on my door, no one screaming at me, no one waiting to twist my victories into his. Just me, my bed, and the quiet hum of possibility. Of course, my family didn't let me go that easily. The calls started almost immediately. Some were guilt trips. "Your brother's hurting. You should apologize." Some were threats. "If you think we'll pay for anything, think again." And some were just plain bizarre, like my mom begging me to come home for Sunday dinner as if nothing had happened. I didn't answer most of them, but when I did, I kept it short. "I'm not your scapegoat anymore." Click. Still, part of me wondered how long it would take before they tried something bigger. And I was right to wonder, because the next move they made wasn't just about words. It was about sabotage. I should have known my parents wouldn't stop at angry phone calls. For a while, I thought maybe they'd just stew in their bitterness and let me go live my life. But nah. If there's one thing I'd learned by then, it's that control was their oxygen. And they weren't about to let me breathe without trying to choke me. It started small. I went to check my student portal one morning, and my password didn't work. At first, I thought maybe I just messed it up, but when I reset it and got in, I saw someone had tried changing my mailing address and emergency contact to my parents' info. They wanted all my university mail redirected back to them. Financial forms, housing assignments, everything. I marched down to the student services office, my heart pounding in my throat. I explained the situation, half expecting them to roll their eyes and tell me I was being dramatic. But the woman at the desk, older, glasses, kind face, looked me dead in the eye and said, "We see this more often than you'd think." She helped me lock my account with a PIN only I knew, flagged my file for privacy, and even handed me resources for students dealing with unsupportive home environments. That was the first time I realized I wasn't crazy, that other people had been through this too, and that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't doomed to fight alone. But my parents weren't done. A week later, I showed up to class only to find my tuition flagged as unpaid. I knew damn well my scholarship covered it. When I called the financial aid office, they told me someone had tried to decline my scholarship award on my behalf. Luckily, my housing office's flag on my file had triggered a manual review, so nothing actually went through. I sat there in my dorm room, staring at the email, hands shaking, teeth grinding. They weren't just mad. I think they genuinely believed they had the right to take my future away if it didn't fit their script. The breaking point came one Friday night. I was at the campus library, cramming for midterms, when I got a text from a buddy down the hall. "Yo, your parents are here looking for you." I thought he was joking. But then he sent a photo. My dad, standing in the dorm lobby, red-faced and shouting at the RA, while my mom wrung her hands beside him. My brother was there too, leaning against the wall with that smug grin, like this was all some reality show he was enjoying. My stomach dropped. I wanted to disappear into the floor. I packed up my stuff, heart racing, and ducked out the back of the library. By the time I got back to my dorm, campus security was already there. My dad was going off, yelling about how I was his son, and they had a right to check my room. My RA looked mortified. Security told him flat out, "He's an adult. You don't have any rights here." I stayed hidden until they were gone, sitting in a dark corner of the quad, shaking so bad my teeth chattered even though it wasn't cold. I wasn't scared of them hitting me anymore. It was worse than that. I was scared of being dragged back into that house, of them finding some way to legally tether me, to strip me of the independence I'd just barely started tasting. That night, I filed a no-contact request with the university. They added an alert to my student ID and dorm building, meaning my parents couldn't just stroll in anymore. The RA apologized the next day, said they'd never seen anything like it. I laughed, bitter and hollow, and said, "Welcome to my life." For a while, I kept my head down, focused on classes, my part-time job, building a new routine that was mine and mine alone. And for the first time, I started to feel stable, like maybe I really could carve out a future that didn't have their fingerprints on it. But of course, family gossip spreads faster than fire. At Christmas, when I didn't show up to the big family dinner, my phone blew up with messages from relatives. Some sympathetic, "We're proud of you. Don't let anyone steal that from you." Others hostile, "You're tearing this family apart." And some that just made me laugh from how ridiculous they were. "You owe your brother a public apology for embarrassing him." Apologize? For what? For existing? For not letting them stage a parade on my back? I didn't reply. I was done trying to explain myself to people who didn't want to understand. But the thing about lies is, once they burn down, they leave ashes everywhere. My brother couldn't go anywhere without someone whispering. He'd walk into family gatherings and people would side-eye him, wondering what else had been fake. My dad's pride took the biggest hit. He thrived on respect, and now he looked like a man who couldn't control his own kids. And my mom? She just acted like I'd died, never mentioning me at all, like erasing me was easier than admitting they'd been wrong. I should have felt triumphant, but mostly, I felt tired. Tired of the weight of their expectations, their anger, their sabotage. Tired of waking up every day wondering if today would be the day they tried something new. And yet, underneath all that exhaustion, there was something else. Something small, but growing. Hope. Because no matter what they did, I was still here. Still standing. Still enrolled. Still moving forward, one step at a time. And deep down, I think they finally realized it too, that they couldn't stop me. Not anymore. The spring semester hit different. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waking up to someone screaming at me to do chores or dragging me to the family store on weekends. I wasn't walking on eggshells, waiting for the next blow-up. I was just living. Classes were brutal, yeah. The workload felt like it was trying to drown me half the time. But I loved it. I'd sit in the library until midnight, surrounded by stacks of books, high on caffeine and determination, and think, this is mine. Nobody can take this away from me. I started picking up extra shifts at the campus cafe to cover stuff the stipend didn't stretch to. That job ended up saving me in more ways than one, because it's where I met the people who'd become my real family. There was James, this loud guy from Chicago who cracked jokes so bad they looped around and became funny. There was Maya, who could write a 10-page paper in one sitting and still have time to drag me to late-night diner runs. And there was Sam, quiet but sharp, who noticed the way I froze whenever someone raised their voice and never pushed me to explain, just gave me space. They didn't know the whole story at first. How do you even start a conversation like that? Hey, by the way, my parents tried to erase me from existence and sell my future to my brother like it was a used car. But little by little, bits slipped out. The bruises that weren't from sports. The reason I never went home on breaks. The Thanksgiving toast that wasn't mine. When I finally told them everything, expecting disgust or disbelief, they just listened. Maya teared up. James swore loud enough to turn heads in the cafe. Sam just put a hand on my shoulder, steady, like an anchor. You don't owe them a damn thing, James said. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. And for the first time, I believed it. Meanwhile, back home, the fallout wasn't slowing down. I didn't hear it directly. My parents had basically cut me off, which was a relief, but word got around. My aunt called one night to check in, and she let a few things slip. My brother had been struggling bad. Couldn't keep up payments on his truck. Hadn't gotten into any of the trade programs he told everyone he was applying for. People started whispering that the scholarship lie was just the tip of the iceberg. I should have felt bad. He was still my brother, after all. But honestly, all I felt was a kind of detached pity. He'd had everything handed to him and still managed to fumble it. Meanwhile, I was clawing my way up from nothing, and for once, I was winning. By sophomore year, I was thriving. Dean's List. Promoted at the cafe. Even landed an internship that paid better than any job I'd ever had. Every success was a brick in the wall between me and the people who tried to crush me. And every brick made me stand taller. But the universe has a funny way of circling things back. The big family reunion was coming up. One of those giant summer barbecues where 3 generations gather, gossip, and pretend everything's perfect. I hadn't gone in 2 years, and I wasn't planning to. But then my cousin messaged me. You should come this time. People need to hear the truth from you, not whispers. At first, I thought, no way. Why would I walk back into the lion's den? But the more I sat with it, the more I realized maybe it wasn't about them anymore. Maybe it was about me. About finally standing in front of all of them and refusing to shrink. So I went. Pulling into that familiar neighborhood felt like stepping into a nightmare. The same sagging houses, the same cracked sidewalks, the same smell of barbecue smoke hanging heavy in the summer air. I almost turned the car around right then, but I didn't. I parked, got out, and walked up the driveway with my head high. The looks I got when I walked in, some surprised, some awkward, a few outright hostile. My mom froze mid-conversation. My dad's jaw clenched so tight, I thought his teeth would crack. My brother? He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't make a scene. I didn't raise my voice. I just greeted people, caught up with cousins, laughed with the kids running around. I wanted them to see me, not the broken version my parents painted, not the villain of their narrative, just me. Of course, my dad couldn't let it slide. Halfway through dinner, he stood up, beer in hand, and said, "Glad you could grace us with your presence. Maybe next time you'll remember where you came from." I could have ignored it, but something in me snapped. I stood up too, my legs shaking but my voice steady. I remember exactly where I came from, and I remember who tried to erase me. But here I am anyway. The silence that followed was different this time. Not the heavy, suffocating silence of fear, but something sharper. People shifting in their chairs, murmuring, eyes darting between me and my dad. For the first time, the power in the room tilted. I didn't plan to blow everything up that night. I figured I'd just show up, exist, and leave with my head high. But once my dad opened his mouth, there was no putting the match back in the box. The tension after I spoke was like a live wire buzzing in the air. My mom looked like she might faint. My brother was gripping his fork so hard his knuckles went white. And my dad, he smirked, like he was ready to put me back in my place in front of everyone. You think standing here with your fancy scholarship makes you a man? He said, voice dripping with contempt. Manhood is loyalty, providing for your family, not running off to play student while your brother carries the weight. The lie hit me like a slap. Your brother carries the weight. My brother, who'd never worked a day in his life, who let me mop floors and haul boxes while he lounged around. I felt the anger rise hot in my chest, but I didn't yell. Instead, I reached into my backpack, the one I'd brought more out of habit than planning, and pulled out a folder. Inside were copies of my acceptance letter, my enrollment papers, and my scholarship award. I'd kept extras, just in case. I laid them on the picnic table, one by one, the university seal glinting under the string lights. Since we're talking about who carries weight, I said, loud enough for the whole yard to hear, let's get the facts straight. This letter? It was mine. This scholarship? Mine. Every late night, every exam, every shift at the store while he played Xbox, mine. They tried to hand it to him, and he took the credit. But it was never his to begin with. A ripple went through the crowd. Murmurs, gasps, side eyes darting at my brother. My aunt leaned forward, scanning the papers with her reading glasses, her face tightening with each line she read. My brother exploded first. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just jealous because Dad believes in me more than you. His voice cracked halfway through, and it only made him sound smaller. I looked right at him. Jealous? You had everything handed to you. And what did you do with it? You tried to steal the one thing I earned. My dad slammed his beer down so hard it foamed over. Enough. You come into my house, disrespect my family, air dirty laundry in front of everyone? You think that makes you strong? I met his glare. For once, I wasn't shrinking under it. Strong is walking away when you'd rather die than stay. Strong is building a future without the people who should have had your back, but only ever put knives there. You don't get to define strength anymore. The silence after that was deafening. No one moved. Then, slowly, my Uncle Mike stood up. I always wondered why the stories didn't add up, he said. Didn't sit right with me. Looks like I was right to wonder. Others started nodding. My cousin muttered, figures, under her breath. My aunt looked my brother dead in the eye and said, shame on you. The tide turned right there. My dad tried to shout them down, but his voice cracked under the weight of too many witnesses. My mom just sat frozen, staring at the table like if she didn't look up, she wouldn't have to admit what had just unraveled. My brother stormed off, knocking over a chair. My dad followed, spewing curses, but the damage was done. The family saw the truth with their own eyes, and there was no shoving it back in the dark. I stayed for another hour, talking, answering questions, showing them the proof. It wasn't about winning them all over. I knew some would still side with my parents, because loyalty runs deep even when it's poisoned. But it was about reclaiming my name, my story. When I finally left, the night air was thick and humid, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Driving back to campus, I thought about everything I'd lost. Parents who should have protected me, a brother who should have been my teammate instead of my rival, a family who'd rather uphold a lie than lift me up. But then I thought about what I'd gained. My education, my friends who felt more like siblings than my real one ever did, a future that was actually mine. The next morning, I woke up to texts from cousins, proud of you. Took guts to stand up like that. One even said, don't worry about Thanksgiving. We'll make sure you've got a seat at our table. And for once, I believed them. Because the truth wasn't just mine anymore. It was out there, undeniable, and it belonged to anyone who chose to see it. And me? I finally felt free.